Welcome back, guys. This is Shadow Drake, and I guess we're going to the last planet, Venus, getting started. It is extreme for a reason, so let's talk about it. Gravity is high, 91% of Earth. Will experience dust storms, so it does have storms. It's just like all atmospheric worlds. Yeah, supposedly it has a reverse rotation, and they've modeled it pretty well. I'm not sure how that plays around and stuff. Again, I just kind of plop stuff down and work with it. And that's why it's every 36.6 minutes. Somehow they did this so that the sun actually rotates backwards. So, I don't get it. Anyways, high solar radiation, so it is very good for plants. But the thing about Venus and why it's super extreme, it's hot. 464 Celsius. Constantly at 239 kilopascals. Constantly. So unlike Vulcan, where you can escape the heat at night and use that to cool, Venus is so hot you have very little cooling options. In which case, really, the absolute hardest thing in Venus is how to cool your flippin' base. And so, I'm not really going to go too crazy in depth on the AC side of things. I kind of expect you to probably research that. And honestly, as far as ACs and other exploits go, Elmotrix has done a video called Let's Talk About ACs. I'm going to link his video to the description. I'd recommend giving that a watch, as it covers a whole lot of the ACs that you can use in Vulcan and Venus, and just about anywhere else. And if you don't have a good background knowledge on how to work the ACs, I recommend watching that, getting an understanding first before tackling Venus or running a Venus creative just to see what works. And I'm just going to be honest with you, Venus is so hot, nothing phase changes at all. The only time anything could phase change would be water at the hot end, 370 Celsius, but that only happens during a dust storm events, which turns Venus temps to 365 temporarily. However, that is not enough to have any appreciable amount of cooling. So I tried. I'm pretty sure others have tried. No matter what, it's just you either have to have ACs to bridge the gap for water to start phase change cooling, or you just basically adopt some kind of cheesy or method or exploit or whatever. But if you do it legitimately by stepping down with ACs, more power to you. But it is tough for that one reason, that Venus is just hard. Anyways, so let's, once again make another Venus start. And as far as boxes go, I didn't notice that the Vulcan had one extra crate. Venus has basically the same types of stuff as you would in any other lander. Your basic construction supplies, your electrical supplies is one solar panel basic with the solid generator. I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't give us an upright turbine, but I guess they figured that might be too strong. But for any planet, I figure Venus should have had that upright turbine. Anyways, you get advanced airlock supplies, which is going to be crucial for yourself. And of course, your typical survival supplies, which are tracking beacons and mining supplies, which, yeah, and trading supplies. Once again, just like Vulcan and Venus, it is absolutely pivotal that you get that set up early, because chances are the trader is going to be what's going to save your butt more often than not in here. And but you still have to fight that RNG. You are given potato seeds, which is kind of odd to me, because Vulcan you get the switchgrass, and here you get potato seeds, and only potato seeds, which is very odd if you ask me. I'd expect Venus to get the switchgrass. Anyways, again, just like with Vulcan, the very first tip would be to turn down your pressure settings. Trust me, it makes it last much longer. Pressure down to about 45 to 50, whatever you want to game it. This helps you to last so much longer, Venus. And unlike Vulcan, you are not exploding as soon as you get down. Alright, so what can I say about Venus? It's yellow, it's dank, it's hot, it sucks. It's one of my least favorite planets because unlike Vulcan, where you actually have the ability to kind of do stuff at different times of the day, Venus is just hot all the time. And honestly, that makes things so much harder. Before I get too far, again, Shelter, number one priority, absolutely critical. In Venus, you basically want that shelter up ASAP, with power generation options going greatly because you need a way out of the heat. But there's a problem with that. Venus has 240 kilopascals of pressure. If we take a look at your typical iron walls, they can only handle a pressure differential of 200 kilopascals. What this means to you is that if you try to vacuum out a shelter made out of strictly iron walls, it will implode and you will basically get Venus rushing right back in and you're right back to where you started. So unless you keep your base pressurized at least 50 kilopascals at all times, which is really hard to do when you're supposed to vacuum out all the entire heat, iron walls are a no-go. Don't even bother. No, you can't double layer them because both of them take damage. Now, let's go to the window options. The window options are just as bad. Iron windows, 200 kilopascals. And the most readily available wall that you get, probably from Build Inc., would be the composite wall kits, which also cannot withstand Venusian pressure differences. So just giving you a huge heads up that if you're going to make your stuff if you need windows to utilize the Venusian sun for growing plants, the first thing that you can get is not the reinforced window, it's the padded windows. See, the padded windows can survive a 300 kilopascal difference, which allows you to actually vacuum out a window room. These padded walls require steel sheets and glass sheets, and they are made on the Autolay Tier 1, but you need some steel. Now, padded windows and thin padded windows also are 300 kilopascals. Those are your only options for windows in Venus, because I believe the shutters cannot handle that. Composite window shutters cannot handle the pressure differential, which kind of sucks. Going back to the wall, that's the flat wall. Does the flat wall have window options? It does not. Come back to the composite windows. Where are they? Yeah, composite walls. Now, from the wall kit, this is something you can buy from building traders very commonly. Wall kits can survive the pressure differential. So what that means is if you don't want to use frames and block out your space for Venus, you have got to progress to steel. But let me tell you this, steel is also extremely hard to progress into for Venus. There's two ways, and I'm just going to cut to that point when I get to the furnace, because that's going to be the hard part. Anyways, so like I said, the very first things you have to do is get your shelter set up. Where is 0? 0 is that way. Oh, perfect. Okay. And to start, what you're going to need is, of course, your airlock, but you have to use frames for this. And as far as things go, I believe I did the math right, and it is a 3x4 shelter is the biggest you can make. And you have to weld it up completely with frames. Like this. And I may have used one too many. I think I have just enough. Perfect, with four to spare. Which allows me to have kind of like a little catwalk over here. Alright, so as you can tell, that's basically the framework for your habitat. Once again, you are given a welder, which, let's just be honest, sucks with the small batteries. So where's my electrical supplies? Swap it. And so then you basically will follow the same train of thought. Single weld the stuff outside so that you don't fall through. Double weld everything that will be inside. Now, I do have to warn you that when you fully weld a frame, frames push out the air. Venus has absolutely so much, whatchamacallit, atmosphere. that when you weld a frame, you could get potentially launched. Just huge. Absolutely huge that you remember that, because this could accidentally throw you somewhere, crack your suit, and honestly, Venus is very easy about cracking your suit. Mining is an extreme challenge. Look at that, I just about spent this large battery. I did almost spend it. It is dead. Wow. Just goes to show why you need... Wait, I got a portable. It sucks, but it's gonna do something for now. But yeah, it just kind of gives you the big go around. I know I've spent a lot of time in here. But if we keep a look at my oxygen, you see that it's kind of draining pretty quickly. Same with my waste tank, it's filling up quickly. Like I said, there is no reprieve. The sooner you can bring stuff inside, the better off you will be. Trust me on that. You can do a mining trip early, but just know that actually I do kind of recommend the mining trip, because you know this is going to be your shelter for a while. At max, it's going to be a 3x4. Remember that this is a lot of pressure to take out, so the sooner you can get it set up, and as soon as you can get the active vent pushing things out, the better off you will be. So like, you know, the airlock supplies, so you do the same thing. You know, arrange your airlock in such a way that, you know, that's going out, you know, pipes. You know, that covers both directions right here. Then of course, power controller. Now the thing that I do about the power controllers on this is because Venus is it's generally very good about I like to kind of have that up there. I should have had power set up right off the bat. And you know what? I'm just gonna have that flat up there. I like to have the power on the roof, because let's just be honest, if you have to build everything out of whatchamacallit, if you have to build everything out of frames, might as well use the roof for something like solar panels or something like that, you know? Use that space to your advantage, have your power generation options up top. Yes, that requires me using the jetpack, I know, I'm saddened by that. But it's a perfect real estate for solar panels, for what else do you call? Where's my electrical supplies? I thought there was a solid fuel generator. Did I? Yeah, it's in my inventory. It's a perfect place to have, you know, generators or something up there. And from the auto lathe kit, you can print what ladders, and just use ladders to get to the roof. So yes, I do. Believe it or not, I actually spend my jetpack a little bit so to get that. But I mean, this is basically the makings of a hut. And once this is all wired up, powered, I can get the doors in. But I'm not going to go through that huge problem, because it takes forever. Which is why I said, the sooner you can get it done, the best. If you can save your first waste tank on Venus, you are an expert at this. You have my congratulations that you managed to do that on one of the hardest worlds. Alright guys, this is going to be scary. You do get mining charges, you do get your portable drill and all that stuff, so let's just let me just explain one crucial thing about Venus mining to you. Mining in Venus is absolutely deadly and risky. When you mine ores in a relatively quick fashion, you see that the air currents are already going. These air currents have a nasty, can get very nasty. It's been toned down a lot, but it's not perfect. When you use the heavy mining drill or a pneumatic drill that mines much faster, you could actually mine this so fast that these air currents slam you into Venus to crack open your suit. And it's even made worse apparent with the mining charge. So let me just go use a mining charge on something like this gold and silver node right here. Let's see what happens. When you set this charge down, right click, you better get far away. Very far away. Because you're going to create a localized vortex. Usually. Oh, did they fix that? Oh, there's the vortex. Yeah, very localized vortex. So just so you know, Venus is not shy about trying to kill you. So let me see if I can do that on a mountain or something. I kid you not, most of the times I've had to restart is because I cracked open my suit. Alright. Let's see what happens. Like I said, the devs have toned that down greatly so that it doesn't happen very often, but it was really bad. It's like the game has to understand that... Ugh! Okay. See what I mean? Vortex. I think I was positioned just perfectly that wasn't going to kill me. But trust me on this, that it can crack your suit. That's why if you go mining on Venus, you have got to bring your duct tape with you. Always bring your duct tape with you. Trust me, I've had many mining accidents in Venus. Alright, so as far as the beginning goes, this is kind of what I got for you. Venus is just rough. You see it's just very careful management of getting in everything inside, building things up, and just, again, it's rough. Very, very rough. This is a tough planet, and this is just the beginning. You know, it's at the point where you may have to use coal for power. There are no ices whatsoever in Venus. If you get some, that means it kind of, you know, you had a hiccup. Something like that. But anyways, this kind of gets you started, so let me go to a different save of mine where I have the furnace set up so I can kind of show you kind of what to do with the furnacing in Venus, because it's, again, stupid hard. So let's be right back. Alright guys, welcome back. So this is a more well-established Venus base that I've spent quite a lot of time in. So, the furnace on Venus is actually kind of one of the hardest things to operate. And I don't know that I got... Yeah, Brutal Legend, I know. Brutal Start. I forgot to set this. So, here's the thing about Venus is, it's so hot outside that if you pipe up an active vent to get, you know, stuff into the furnace, the ambient temperature is hot enough to melt silver, copper, and gold. So once you get a basic furnace set up like that, you can actually just chuck in gold and copper to just basically instantly smelt that in Venus. And you know that makes it makes mining helpful for those. Now, completely forgot to get some iron and copper. Now, silicon and iron, however, when you use in the furnace, will get degassed. So like you can put them in there to get the gases out, take them out. I highly recommend that you do this because the thing is, when you're cooking silicon and iron, it's not hot enough in Venus to get there. It just is not. If you're not going to do an insulation box, kind of like how I have this advanced furnace, this is an insulation box. This is what I was talking about for Europa as well. If your furnace is inside an insulation box, the inside of that atmosphere, which I can point at this temp, you see is 658 Celsius, and that helps to keep the furnace heat in warm. and plus the sun can also add a little bit of extra thermal energy in there, which allows the furnace to stay hot enough for you to be able to cook some stuff like silicon or iron. But again, remember that this can be, I made it with padded walls because of the heat. However, if you just have a passive vent in there connected to a one-way valve, if this pressure gets too high, it'll start expelling it, and unfortunately that's 240 kilopascals. So more of this will be escaping, especially if you leave it on and you'll get it nice and hot. Now, the problem with the furnace is, let's go back to our stage 1 furnace. The hard part is getting this thing hot. So what I recommend for Venus, if you're going to smell anything that is hotter than basically 800 Kelvin, so basically when you start to trying to cook iron or silicon, what I would recommend is first degas them. Run them in separately. Run your iron in, spit it out. Run your coal in, spit it out because you're going to make steel. Run your silicon in, spit it out. Hold on to it. Then you're just going to need to, use your cowl system to empty the furnace. You can't use the active vent because it would only pressurize to 100 kilopascals, so this active vent doesn't do anything in Venus. So, use your cowl system. Yes, I have a big antenna type roof. Use that to get all the gunk out of the furnace. As much gunk as possible, It'll only go down to 240 kilopascals at worst. That's probably the most that I will do. Now, normally I don't even recommend mining cobalt until you're going to start needing it, or when you come across and you want to hoard it, because it just takes up space. For Venus, you have got to mine your cobalt. Your cobalt is your early form of gas. So if I were to take an equal quantity of silver and cobalt, that's going to get the furnace stupid hot. So throw in some silver. I just throw in a little bit more silver, get it out. Became a bar, which is expected because silver will give you the nitrous. Cobalt, when you look it up in the Stationpedia, cobalt gives you 1 mole of volatile each and some nitrogen. So what that means is 1 for 1. 1 cobalt, 1 silver basically makes a super fuel mix inside the furnace. I don't know. I'm just going to throw it all in here. Whatever. Alright. And as you can tell, the furnace is very, very hot. Super fuel burns extremely hot. This is your only chance to cook your iron, your silicon, and your steel. So for example, I didn't have a good batch. I can make iron, I can make silicon. There's no good way to make steel out of this. And steel. This is going to be how you fire up your furnace, and this is going to be crucial for the first go around because remember, Venus is going to cool it down fast. This is why I recommend emptying it, degassing your ores, and then doing it all at once. I would say about 25 cobalt, 25 silver is enough for your first batch of steel, assuming that you degassed everything prior. Now, if you're like me and you get absolutely stupid unlucky and can't seem to get any cobalt whatsoever, or silver, mind you, you are given 1 fuel canister in that portable tank. This is the point where you have to decide whether it is more important for you to make your first batch of steel using that fuel canister or to use it for power. Quite honestly, I would recommend making your steel because you are given a solid fuel generator with some coal, some heavy cables. You can charge up, you can make yourself power positive. In fact, what I had done for this fuel canister is I had done, I had taken one of these, I took one of these, made it a valve like this, set it like so, and then took a pump, like a volume pump. Let me borrow you. And, ooh, that was not high enough. Okay, that's fine. We'll fix it. I just lost the pipe. Oh, come on. And just basically made... What I did is this. Just used a pump system like that. This is a very shoddy design. Shadow Drake original. Shoddy designs. That works somehow. You know, that way I can just turn on the pump, get the fuel in there, furnace gets hot, I cook the stuff. That's for controlled. If you're in a big emergency and you absolutely need to get this furnace operational, there's about 150 moles of fuel in here. No, that's incorrect. That's the big one, I think. There's less moles. There's enough fuel in here, especially when it's full, that if you just need to make your batch of steel quickly, you know, you degas the furnace and everything, you know, maybe got your iron, left your iron and coal in here, just chuck the dang thing in there. Because what that does is it will destroy your tank. It will not taint the furnace at all somehow. But any gases inside that tank will instantly fire up the furnace. That's your main two things. Just keep in mind, once you do that, you lose your fuel tank. But I'm gonna be honest. This setup right here is if you somehow manage to get everything situated before you absolutely need it, or if you know you don't get traders in. Speaking of which, the third final tip I can get to not need to go worry about mining cobalt. When you get your trader pad set up, when you see a gas trader show up, and I mean like they sell you gases like oxygen and volatiles, they have an option called dirty volatiles. That is your cheapest method of getting volatiles for free from them for your furnace. Highly recommend it. If I remember right, it is... I don't remember the space credits. I have to look it up. But if you buy bulk volatiles, which is like 100 moles of volatiles, I think that costs somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 credits, space credits. Dirty volatiles should not exceed 5 space credits per 100 moles. Now keep in mind, this is 100 moles split up between volatiles, pollutants, and carbon dioxide, but you get at least 66 moles of volatiles from it, if I remember that correctly. That's about all that I can get for Venus. So, yeah, wind is really good. If you can get your upright wind turbines, that will get you more situated in power. Furnace operation is going to be really hard. When you get more stable, after you've made your batch of steel, got your station batteries, got some solar panels tracking, or, you know, you're somewhat more stable, I would recommend probably going towards building the furnace inside like a glass box like this. You can do it out of iron walls and encase it. Just do something simple like a passive vent. I'd recommend insulated pipes because you don't want pipes to cool down the inside. Insulated pipe, and then just a one-way valve gas, you know, with maybe an inline tank and a cowl, and just leave that sucker on. As you get the furnace hot, the inside will get hot, it'll have higher pressure, and some of that gas will bleed out. And you actually want that because if you leave the 340 moles of gas roughly in, well, 330 actually. Yeah. Roughly 320 moles of gas inside that furnace to get hot, it's going to actually set your chutes on fire. That's why I have this, to get that extra hot gas out, so that the inside doesn't get too hot to set your chutes on fire. And by extension, your ingots can come out on fire too. That's always a pleasure to see. It's probably one good use for the fire extinguisher. You cook something in the furnace, out comes an ingot on fire, you extinguish the fire. Anyways. Yep. That's my major tips for Venus. Beyond that, look at Elmotrix's how... let's talk about cooling. That'll give you good ideas for how to set up a cooling system. Again, phase change cannot work with the hot temps in Venus. The closest thing you can get to is water, but you still need something to get you down to that. Mining is an extreme and dangerous sport in Venus. 10 out of 10, highly recommend for death. Always go out mining with your duct tape. Trust me, it might save your life because a suit breach out in Venus is going to kill you. Oh, and the final tip, print out an extra canister. you're more than likely gonna run out of waste tank space before oxygen space. Heed those warnings. Your waste tank is full. You better, Matt, you better be close enough to your base to get inside because airlocks take forever to depressurize. You don't want to be roasting in that heat. Remember, it's 10 kilopascals roughly every half second, and there's 240 of them to get through. Oh, safe and sound. Anyways, this is Shadow Drake. I hope this helps you out on Venus. Thank you for your time, and have a good day. Bye-bye.